Hello there, people of the internet. My name is Udur Jagero, and this is Dialogues Jagero. Today, I am with C.A.L Lota, C.A.L Adhiambo Lota, who is coming all the way from Sweden. Is in the country for a few, but we decided to have a beautiful conversation. And C.A.L is very passionate about grief and loss and how people in our community can deal with them. Today, I want to talk with her about death. And when I met her before this podcast, we discussed a lot of things. And this is something that I have always done. And people always, then there is, I find out when I speak with her, there is a correlation to it. Yeah. So every month or thereabout, I go back home. And when in Luo, we say, I'm going to get four. Or four. And that Luo thing is basically, I lost my brother. Yeah. Just recently, about 3 years ago. But the first very loss that I had was my brother was, our youngest brother was suffering from C.A.L, I believe, or blood cancer. I have never known the circumstances under which my brother died. But at the height of it, he was very thin. He lost life. And then later on, obviously, I lost my father. The death of my father did not hit me so much. I think the reason why it did not hit me that much was because I had remnants of love in my mother. But then when I lost my mother, and I was losing my mother at a time that I was really extremely vulnerable. I was vulnerable in terms of protection, but I was very vulnerable financially because I was joining college, and my mother was the one that was supposed to go back to remain at home, gather my relatives together, and look for money to take me to school. And so five months into my college, my mother passed away. And I remember the people in my classroom, gathering into a corner and finding a way of telling me that I've lost my mother. And so the people that had sent the message were a bit crude. They just sent a message like a telegram to my friend's phone that tell Ken that his mother has died. And so Nelson Jenga, who was my closest and the only person in our class that was having a phone at the time, did not know how to relay that message to me. So they collected themselves as schoolmates, as classmates, and decided to do that. And I remember when I finally received the news that my mother had died, I sank. I sank because I thought that I am now completely alone. There is no love from the mother, because remember, the firstborn of our family was a girl, and then the second one was a girl, and so they left the nest pretty early, yes, to their destinations, yes. And then I remained with my mother. So at some point, actually, my brother, whom I follow, left and started living with my sister in Kisumu. And then the young one also left and started living with another sister of mine. Yes. So we were just alone with the mother. Yes. So my mother and my father was in Kisumu as an accountant. So I would be the one cooking, or my mother would be the one cooking, and we were just the two of us. The village can be very lonely sometimes. Yes. So every now and again, when I have the opportunity, I go back home. Yes. Just to be around my dead loved ones, yes, and to feel their breath, to feel them. The other day my sister told me that I just want to buy clothes for my mother, okay, even though she's dead, because my mother used to go and ask other women for clothes to go to funerals because she was not in a very good place, yes, at the time. So when you contacted me and told me that you wanted to talk about grief, I think I understand what it is, but the magnitude of it and all the people around the world and around Kenya that are suffering from grief. And then there is something that you also told me that was very interesting, that grief is not just the loss of a dear one. No. Grief can manifest in losing a job. Grief can manifest in divorce. Grief can manifest in losing a friend. Yeah. So that was a long, introduction. That was a very long introduction. But I wanted to contextualize our conversation so that people understand it. Every time somebody comes to my podcast, I always ask them, "How are you doing?"
I am doing well. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I am.
Okay. And how did you get to a point where I want to ask you that, and then I'll go back to who you are. I want to ask you why the issue of grief is very important to you.
You see, the first time I came in contact with grief, even before I had a word for it, was many years ago when I lost my father at the age of 9. I didn't know what grief was. And it's very common, I think, in our culture when we lose somebody and you are a child, the family never walks children through the process. What happens, people come in wailing, and then the next step is the living room arrangement is changed, and more seats are brought in to accommodate people, and the child is still left outside. And then the adults go into the logistics, funeral arrangements, the burial, everything like that, and I was left out. So me growing up, I had gaps in my grieving process. There are things I didn't understand that until I was in my late 40s, I started asking some of my father's relatives, why did you people do it in this way? What happened? And then I realized this is grief. This is me trying to fill in those pieces of information that were missing to help me in my grieving process. Yeah.
I want to go back to who you are. Tell us a little bit about who you are. You know, your journey to who you are right now. You told me that obviously you are Kenyan, a
Yes.
Luo, that is now practicing and working in Sweden. Tell us a little bit of your story, where you went to school, where you grew up, and how you finally ended up in Sweden.
Yes, I was born in C.A.L in a mission hospital, Rangala.
Yeah.
My early years were in Mombasa with my parents. My father worked there. And after his death, I moved to Athi River where my father's oldest brother lived there. To me, he was a father. We called him Mzee. And then after that, after class 8, I went to Rai Girls in Nyakach. So after that, I moved back to Nairobi and then moved to Sweden where I pursued my education in social sciences and sociology. And then later on did my master's in global health and now practicing psychotherapist, amongst others, CBT, behavioral therapist.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
And the other one you said was physio? There's the other therapy that you talked about.
Psychotherapist.
Psychotherapy.
But I'm using CBT as a means of attending to my clients.
Okay.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a way of, cognitive behavioral therapy is a way of making you change the way you perceive things. For example, during grief, somebody might say, I don't think I will ever come through this, or I don't think I will ever move on from this. So we get a way of helping you refrain that question and use more empathetic ways and constructive ways. For example, say, it's going to take a long time for healing. I'll take it one step at a time. Yeah.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
why is it important to undergo this therapy as people who have been in grief?
There are so many therapy, but I use that because I change the way a client sees the situation there and then, and their way of perceiving and translating grief. So by them refraining this phrase, the phrase that I don't think I will ever go through this. Like you say, when your mom died, you felt so much exposed. So when you come to me, I'll try and change why. What is fueling that reasoning? How can we go around it and make it to be a more constructive way of moving along the grief? Yeah.
How do people start to feel like this is not good for me so that they come to you? Because as somebody who I have been in grief for some time, and recently I've been really grieving my brother, who I consider to have been my best friend. So just to give you context about my late brother who just died the other day, actually the boy that is there that I call Obunga is the son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I have had problems with my foot for a very long time, almost 15 years or probably more, plantar fasciitis, which does not allow me to drive for long distances. So my brother sometimes drives me to Nairobi
Okay.
and then goes back by bus to the village. And the last time that happened, he died on his way back. Which was, so my brother brought me to Nairobi, and then we had a good time until very late. And then my brother wakes up in the morning and tells me that, I have to be home. And I'm telling him, but you are supposed to see our relative who lives on the other side of Utawala. And he tells me, no. Something has come up and I have to now go. Yeah. So I release him. I'm still in bed, and he leaves actually when I'm still in bed. So he reaches Katito. I think you know Katito because you were in Rai. And I get a phone call that my brother has been involved in a road accident. And 40 minutes later, I receive another phone call that he's died on the road, in the ambulance to Russia. So I never actually believed that he was dead. It was very difficult to believe that he was dead because I think he was my. So when I go home, when I visit home, and I told you that I visit home a lot, and I leave my family behind.
Yes.
When I visit home, my brother would do everything.
Yes.
And then at the tail end of the day, he would be in my house, and he will be storing until very late, So at what point do people realize that what is actually affecting them in their daily life is grief?
You see, grief is a natural human response to loss, and it affects us deeply because it is rooted in love. And that's why we feel the way we feel. So when we lose something or someone, it is the whole essence of their absence affects us. It affects us mentally, physically, and sometimes even spiritually. And that's why grief can feel like storm sometimes. It can be so overwhelming. And it is in that point that clients come to me when they can't function like they used to. An example is somebody can decide to be in bed for the whole day. They are very tired. Some people overwork themselves. Some people are very, very emotional. There's anger management and things like that. And then when you talk to them, it goes deep, mostly into grief. It could be grief, loss of somebody or bereavement. It could be separation. It could be also grief that children have moved out of home. They are adults now. So you're not used to staying. You're living yourself. All of a sudden, they have all moved out and you're left on alone. Grief of losing income or job. And grieving over a dream that was never realized.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
A dream that was never realized.
Yes.
You wanted to be a doctor.
Yes.
But you ended up being something else.
Be something else, and you are not happy where you are. So you are grieving about something that was never realized.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking that sometimes you come to somebody like you
Yes.
and you want to establish.
Yes.
So you ask them what kind of questions to understand their grief.
Yes.
What kind of questions do you ask them to
You can
understand?
ask them, like you started with me, how are you today? What have you been doing? What did you do yesterday? And how can I help you? Can you tell me something about yourself? Start there. And then you keep on digging deeper and deeper and packing the layers and you realize where the problem is. And they will also tell you, actually, I wanted to be a lawyer, but maybe my father wanted me to be a teacher. I am not happy where I am. And I don't want to disappoint my father. So you walk them through that process. Somebody else is going through divorce or separation. Like I said, grief is deeply rooted in love. They have lost this person. They know that there's no way this person is coming back. They are grieving over that lost relationship. Somebody else also lost their employment. Their circle of friends has shrunk. They are also grieving about that. There's estrangements in the families. A sister does not talk to a brother does not talk to a sister does not talk to a mother. We also grieve over the loss of such relationships, yet they are alive.
Wow.
Yes.
There is the grief that adults have.
Yeah. Yes.
And then there is the I don't know whether the correct term is child grief. What do you call it? Child grief?
Yes.
I want you, could you contextualize what child grief is? And probably if you could tell me the story of what you told me the other day about your own grief as a child and what happened through the process. If you can just tell me that story without me interrupting you.
You see, when I lost my dad at the age of 9, I knew he was unwell because I had visited him in hospital many years prior to that. But the last hospital visitation, I remember he was so sick the previous night. And I remember him walking by the dining hall and going to hospital. But nobody ever told me how sick he was. I overheard adults talking about his situation. The last information I had about my father was 2 of my teachers were talking about his condition. And I remember one teacher telling the other, I went to visit her father. He's not doing so good. And that evening, I had the first person coming in was my mother, and other people came in wailing. So as a 9-year-old, nobody tells me anything, but I figured out from the conversations that I overheard that he's died. Nobody still talks to me about his death. The next day, the living room arrangement now changes to accommodate mourners, and big sufurias follows, and there is food. And nobody still tells me anything. I just have to figure out that my father is dead. And one thing that struck me, I remember they were I saw there was a paper about my father, but the name instead of his name was Jacob. Instead of Jacob, it was late Jacob Luther. And I wondered why his name has suddenly shifted from Jacob to late. I couldn't figure that out. It wasn't until months later that a prominent politician died. Then I also realized this name is used when person has passed on. So in all this, I didn't understand I knew he was dead. I missed him dearly. I had so many questions. Nobody was talking to me about it. But I can't blame them. They thought they were protecting me, but they didn't, because this grief caught up with me much later on in life. I think it started when I was in high school, the last year of high school, as a teenager. I didn't know who I was. I had an uncle who loved me. I pegged the responsibility of father on him. And he embraced me. He paid my school fees. He visited me in school. Remember, his kids were all grown up, so I was like the last born in his family. And he spoiled me, and I enjoyed that. But deep inside, I really wanted somebody to know that my father died. I wanted to keep my father's memory alive, but I didn't know how, because I didn't want to betray. It felt like I would betray my uncle, whom I loved deeply. He wrote me letters in school, and he signed them, Dear Dad. So nobody knew my father died. But again, I wanted to keep my father's memory alive, but I didn't know how to say that. So I had these struggles in me as a teenager until I went and told one of my principals, school principals, who is now deceased, and said, you know what? My father passed away many years ago. And she was also shocked because my uncle played this role so well. But later on in my 40s and 50s, I started having these panic attacks, and I would call back home and ask, why did you people not tell me about this, about my father? I had so many questions. Then I realized I'm still grieving. I'm that little child that's missing answers, and I want these answers. Yes.
Very, very interesting. Because now I think that like there is this thing that people are told that they should be able, that the way they should be able to live and protect the children. And sometimes I think that the parents do not even know how to protect themselves. They don't understand it. And so they're wondering, okay, this is, we are also shocked because I'm thinking that the child is grieving.
Yes.
But perhaps the wife is also grieving. So then we are trying to think, okay, the adult might be in a better place because they understand death.
Yes.
And they know what happens when somebody dies, that they are going to be buried and they're probably never going to see them again. But then there's a way you told me that there are different ways through which a child is told that their father or their loved one has died.
Yes.
I wanted you to tell me this, some of the ways through which people explain to children what has happened, and some of the ways, practical ways through
Yes.
which we can explain to children better of what has happened. I hope that you are enjoying that episode, people of the internet. You know, everybody says there is no job, and that is true. Also, that was me 10 years ago. The problem is that everybody is trying to get a job in their own town, in their own city, in their marketplace. They ask friends for jobs, mothers call uncles, uncles call fathers, but there are no jobs, right? Let me tell you what no one is telling you. Jobs migrated online. What I actually mean is there are many, many jobs around the world, and there is no one to do them. I have worked for a long time online, I think more than 10 years. I work for Americans, I work for Europeans, I work for the Chinese, the Australian, Canadians, the Ugandans, name all of them. And last year, I had a eureka moment. I said to myself, you know what? I should compile what I have been doing for the last 15 years. So in 2024, I wrote a book called Goldmine, 18 Side Hustles for Africans. And it sold a lot of copies. In fact, I was going for, sometimes I was receiving 500 orders in a day. In 2025, something happened. AI came. I think in 2025, AI came. AI came in 2024, but in 2025, it is here with us. And people say AI is taking away their jobs. And for me, I'll say false. There are actually AI jobs. Na mimi ni nani? I created more jobs. We now have in my book 25 online and offline side hustles that you can do anywhere in the world, whether you are in the village, whether you are in your small town, whether you're in a marketplace, whether you are in your house, you can do them. In this powerful volume 2, I share 25 new actionable online hustles specifically researched and tailored for Africans. My new book provides clear step-by-step guidance, drawing from my extensive experience and research, including the mistakes I have made and lessons I have learned over 15 years in this online job market. You can become an executive assistant to busy folks in Europe, America, and Canada. You can also get paid for tasks like watching videos and taking online surveys. There are many of them, and they're in my book. You can also build a business as a virtual assistant, start an e-commerce without a shilling. You can also become an affiliate marketer or an online English tutor. And you can also do tens of AI jobs, and they're all in these books. If you have a job, that is fine, but I know around you there are so many people that are always looking for jobs and at home watching Netflix. Buy this book for your brother, for your sister, for your mother, cousin, husband, who is back at home all day, all night watching Netflix. Okay? Buy it for your friend, that friend who is always asking you for cash. You can buy this book for them. All the information is in the description below. You can also inbox me, you can WhatsApp me, or you can go to my website, which is oduorjagero.co.ke. The book is only 1,000 Kenya shillings. Or if you're anywhere around the world, the book is $10. So thank you very much. Back to programming.
You see, children observe a lot. And we adults might not know that. They are very, very observant. So I think when death hits the family, depending on the child's age, I think some of the things we can say to the child is that, you know, grandma died. And be very consistent of the words you use and explain. When somebody dies, they stop breathing, they stop eating, and they will never come back. But we will keep them in our memories. We still love them. Give the child time to come back again and ask, because the children can ask this question even 100 times, because that is a way of them processing the information. So be very, very calm and allow them to ask these so many questions, because they might also ask you, are you also going to die soon? Yes, those are some of the questions they'll ask you. Say, well, not really. I'm planning to stay around as long as possible. Okay. And they can repeat that question again next week again. Did you say that you're not going to die as, hapa karibuni. But always say, no, I'm planning to be here, because that way you comfort them. But also you've explained what death is. Death is when somebody dies, they stop eating, they stop breathing, they will never come back. But we will keep them in our memory, and we will still love them. And if you turn to the Christian faith, we say we hope that we will see them one day in heaven, and we'll keep on praying for their souls. Yes.
Are there follow-up questions that they could be asking based on they will not eat again, they will not sleep again?
I think when we use things like, oh, grandma slept, then they might also get scared of sleeping, because they might be afraid they might never wake up like grandma did. So it's very important to explain to them.
I think that is what I wanted you,
Yes.
some of the things that we should
Yes.
not say to the children
Yes.
when somebody...
Yes.
Go ahead.
So when you explain what death is, and that this person has died, they were unwell, the doctors couldn't help them, but they will never come back, they don't hear, they can't sleep. Just explain the practical things that happens in death to them. However, we still love them, and we will always be thinking about them. Because when you say, this person has slept, the children might identify sleep with not waking up. You get it? And they might get scared. But when you explain this, the next question is, are you also going to die like grandma? Say, no. I don't think so. I'm going to be here for a while. But you have now already explained what death is to the child. They don't need to associate it with sleeping. They don't need to associate it with anything else. However, they will come back and ask you the same questions 100 times. It's a way that the children express and process the whole grieving and death.
Is that enough, or are there follow-up questions that, for example, once you've told them that,
Yes.
because some people have rapar,
Yes.
is it called, rapar is called what in English? Commemoration?
Memory, yes, memory or something like
Memory
that.
or something like
yes.
that. During those times,
Yes.
do we have to explain that to them again?
If you are people that practice that, you have to explain that to the children, why you are there, why you are, in Luo we call it sao.
Yes.
There's a prayer. You say, we are here, we are remembering grandma or granddad that died, and we are praying and things like this. On all these things, the children can be part of this according to their age. If they are too young, then don't expose to them. But you have to be very gentle in how you expose death and the whole process to them. Yes.
I remember when we were with Luther Jr. the other day,
Yes.
he was also contributing and saying that when our loved ones are in hospital and are not feeling well, but
Yes.
some people would not want children to go and visit these people
Yes.
in the hospital. Your professional advice, would you allow, children even to be at the deathbed of their loved ones?
It depends on how old the child is and what is the status of that dying relative. Like he said he wished he was part of that process when his father passed on, instead of being told, oh, this guy was okay today, then went to hospital, then he's dead. It would have been easier for him to grieve had he been part of the process. And I think that is also a very valid point that he brought up there. Yes.
Let's now talk about the grief of the adults. All right? What do you think is the biggest difference between a grieving child and a grieving adult?
You see, this grieving adult was some time ago a child. So it is that child that has grown to be an adult now.
Yeah.
But quite often, adults tend to bottle in everything, and especially the men. They don't talk about it. And your men friends also come and say, come on, be strong. Sometimes it's not that. So they keep up this macho, and yet they are not strong. They are empty inside. So I think it's good to lean on the community sometimes, or to write journal of how you are feeling today. Just write how you feel, because in that way you empty out those emotions. Keep the memory of your loved ones alive. They may be dead, but talk about them. Keep some ritual. In the West, they light candles. Whenever they think of their loved ones, there's just a date set aside in Sweden where people put light candles in the graveyards. But here in Kenya, let's talk about them. tell people that you are not okay. And then with the time, change the routine. There are people that say, I don't want you to move this book because this was where my late wife left this book. Let it be there for a while. But once you start processing it, maybe you can move that book to a bookshelf somewhere and change the routine so that you don't move on, but you move along. You learn to live with the loss. Remember, like I told you, grief is love that has nowhere to turn to. So when you grieve, you still love, you're not moving away from the grief, but you're still loving your loved one that passed on. Yeah.
How do we treat the grieving as people? Because there is the person that is in grief, and then there are also us who are relatives around the grief, around the grief issue. What are some of the symptoms of people you will see somebody say that this person has a problem and is grieving? What are some of the things that loved ones should be able to see and how to deal with them? Yes.
Mostly adults, they withdraw. Somebody who was outgoing keeps to themselves now. If they have children, you see them being very overprotective of their children. They want to know where they are going. If there are people that they were doing something, they do it even more. They overwork. Some people are very angry, and some people turn to very destructive behaviors like indulging in alcohol to numb the pain. So sometimes it's okay to check on people. Just find out how they are. Even if they will not say anything, just show up there. Because one of the misconceptions that people have about grief is that it should have a timeline. Grief has no timeline.
Is that so?
It has no timeline. What happened 40 years ago could still affect me now. Somebody can say, but the husband died 10 years ago, she should move on. You learn to live with this loss. You learn to live with their absence. So grief has no timeline whatsoever.
Yeah, there are several things that they say that people who are in grief should be able to do. Like there is the therapy. So perhaps I would ask you, what do you tell them when they are sitting on the sofa and you're talking to them? There is the issue of journaling. There is the issue of community, spirituality. And all those things. How does somebody who is undergoing grief, get involved in all these things?
You see what works for you. I say in Kenya we are very fortunate because our funerals are very communal. There are so many people that come to our funeral, and we have that extended relationships. Where I work it's more of a private affair, and people don't talk about it. Here we are lucky that we can talk about it through these rituals, through some of the rituals you named. We can talk about them in church,
yes,
using faith groups if we have. Talk to your pastor about it. And now I've seen even in social media, people are coming up with different groups to,
Yes.
Yes. You see another group in Facebook about helping up people that are mourning or widowers. So such groups are also very nice for people that don't want to open up to their relatives or to their loved ones, to be part of and express their emotions, and also meet people that are going through similar situations. Yes.
I hear there are 5 stages of grief. That is the stage of denial, the stage of anger, the stage of bargaining, the stage of depression, and then acceptance. Can you take us through these stages?
The first stage, like you say, is denial. You say, somebody comes and asks, how are you holding on? You said, we are okay, we are okay, we are managing.
Tushapoa.
Yeah, tumepoa, we are okay, okay. Then the next time you start becoming angry. Now when the loss, grief now sinks in, the anger comes out because you don't know how to navigate it. Let's say you have kids. Life has to go on. They have to go to school. You're also a grieving husband. You don't know how to navigate all this, to be a father, to be a mother, to be also a grieving husband. So that anger comes in there. And if you're not careful in that anger, you get into alcohol to numb in this pain. But the thing is, when you numb this pain, alcohol will go away tomorrow and the grief will still be there. So you have to deal with it. Yes.
And then there is the bargaining, what it looks like. If only I had done this differently, or God, if you
Yes.
bring back, I promise I will. Yeah.
You start maybe blaming yourself. Had I just done this thing, maybe it would have not ended this way. Or if you start blaming yourself. Or if she could come back, or he could come back, I could handle it differently. And I was in that phase as a child. I used to think, I would really want to accept my dad in any form. If he ever comes up, in whichever form, I will accept him. Yeah.
And then depression. And acceptance. At what point do people say that this happened, I can't change it, but I can live with it?
It is when you accept that, yes, I'm going through grief. I can't do it by myself. I need help. And you reach out. You can reach out maybe to your pastor. You can reach out to a group, a support group if you have, or reach out to your therapist and say, this is what has been going on and now I need help. And together, you and your therapy will sit down and get those tools that will help you move forward while still keeping the love that you have for your departed ones.
Can we discuss a little bit about the other griefs
Yes.
and how to deal with them? And sometimes I just like somebody just saying without me interrupting them, so you can talk about each and every one of those griefs.
Yes.
And then you discuss a little bit of how to deal with them.
Yes. Like I said, some of the misconceptions about grief is that grief is just about death. It's not. Grief, like said, can be about death and bereavement. When somebody dies, you lose a loved one. And you are allowed to go into that period of anger and crying. You are allowed to do that, and it helps a lot. Start journaling or writing things about that person, because that way you sort of pour this emotion that's in you and accept it. Stop blaming yourself. Had I done this differently? Stop blaming yourself and embrace that and find a new purpose, because any sort of grief has a way of getting the best out of us. Grief cracks us open and gets the very best out of us, and we come out very compassionate and understanding. So when somebody tells you about their grief, they've lost a job or something, you can identify it and you become very compassionate about it. The other grief is health. For example, somebody all of a sudden has a chronic illness. You can grieve over your old self, how you are. It's very normal to think how you are, but try and focus on your current situation. What can you do to make this current situation better? Start writing how you feel and what you can do about this. Let's say you've been diagnosed by cancer. Of course, you are going to grieve your life before you had cancer. You are going to grieve over that.
You grieve your life?
Yes.
Before you had it?
Yes. You've lost that part of you, that healthy part of you. And it's going to hurt. You will grieve over it, how you are. So you need also to accept who you are now and embrace it. And what can you do to make yourself better? And that you can reach through support groups, different support groups. Talk to somebody. Yes. There is also the loss and the grief when you lose a job. And you see, once you lose the job, it affects your income. And with that comes the shame of telling people that I've lost my job. And with that, your circle of friends begin to shrink. You grieve over how you were before you lost your job, the life you had, the friendships you had.
The phone calls that
the
have not
phone
been
calls
paid.
that have not, yes. So you grieve over that, and it will take time. But lean on the support that is there. Lean in the community. Sometimes the help that somebody gets in that situation comes from the most unexpected quarters. So it's in as much as it's difficult, sometimes it's better to open up and say, this is what I'm going through. And then accept it and say it'll be better. There is also the loss of grieving somebody who is alive, estrangements within the family. When all of a sudden you don't speak to your sister, or you don't speak to your brother, you don't speak to your mother, you don't speak to your auntie. You are grieving the relationship that you had with them before everything stops.
Yeah, I can imagine. It is something that a lot of people do not speak about.
Yes.
Do you think that there are these are some of the things that we don't know about, or we don't know what is going on?
Because we associate grief with death. But these other things I'm saying is also grief. When all of a sudden you don't speak to your sister or your mother or your uncle.
How can grief transform us instead of breaking us?
Like I said, grief has a way of cracking us open. It leaves us so much, like you said, when your mother died, you felt so much vulnerable. That vulnerability opens up room for compassion. When somebody tells you what you're going through or they've gone through, you can identify with that and you can know how to treat them because you have walked in that shoe. Yes.
In finishing, I'm hoping we are finishing. What gives you hope in the work that you do?
Well, when my clients come to me and say, 6 months ago, I didn't think I could laugh, but now I can, because they have the tools to move on.
That's all?
Yes. And just to before we stop, I just want to tell anybody that's grieving that what you are feeling is very normal. And you are not alone. And you should not grieve alone. Reach out. There is help. Grieving does not erase the memories of our loved ones. It does not.
I wonder if there are grief. I imagine you practice in Sweden.
Yes.
But who are your colleagues here in Kenya, the people that do this work in Kenya? Do we have anybody who do this kind of work in Kenya? Or any therapists who do it? I'm not sure.
I'm sure there are therapists that do it around Kenya. There are. But I'm more interested in the grief because it's very personal to me. Yeah.
Thank you very much, C.A.L, for coming and sharing with us about grief. I think it's affecting a lot of people. Yeah. I can imagine somebody who wakes up and these people go to funerals and the bus has gone down and your entire family is wiped.
Yes.
I can imagine that you wake up and there is no single family of yours that you can call.
Yes. Grief has a way of getting the best out of us. And let's embrace each other. Just reach out. Sometimes you need somebody just to be there to see you crying and not saying a word. It means a lot. Yes.
Thank you very much for coming to Dialogues with Jagero. I wish you well with your work. Dialogues with Jagero is made by people who contribute to it, people like yourself, and I really appreciate the time that you've taken to come to Dialogues with Jagero and speak. How did you know about Dialogues with Jagero? How did it first flashed into on your computer screen there in Sweden?
I've been watching it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you remember the very first time that you saw and you wondered, who are these people? Who is this guy?
Oh, you have heard all sorts of people.
Yeah.
But I think Zippy stood out. And then I think his pastor, Burale also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, people of the internet, thank you very much for tuning to this special podcast. I really loved it because I have been a victim of, can I say a victim of grief?
You are still grieving. That's why you go back home.
Yeah. So you also go back to your place.
I think that's where I go to when my emotional tank is empty.
When your emotional tank is empty.
Yes.
You know. So people of the internet, a lot of people are going through grief, and if you're one of them, it is important that you get help. It is important that you start reading about it and find a way of how you can get better. You told me that there are people who are even grieving their fathers that they have never met.
Yes.
The grief is so wide.
It's so wide. I mean, you can. It is. We just don't understand. It's just not about death. Is just a little fraction of it. It's grief about when you retire and you start living at home. You're also grieving your previous life when you are working.
And meeting people at cafes.
Yes.
And going for those excursions outside the city.
Yes.
You can no longer do that.
You can no longer do that.
I wish if presidents grieve their presidency.
I think they do.
They do, right? Uhuru must just be sitting and saying, these news people no longer look for me at all. What did I do to them?
Yes, I think everybody grieves in one way or the other. Yes, when you lose position of power, of course they grieve. They just don't go out there weeping and say, no, I'm grieving. But of course they miss that routine that they were used to.
Last night I thought about this thing politically, and I was like, so we have somebody who has been a governor for 2 terms.
Yes.
And has been an MP before. And suddenly, after their governorship, they want to be senators. Yes. I think this is grief.
Yes, because they don't know any other way. They are grieving. They don't want to lose that part that comes with prestige and a title. Because now when you retire from here, you just go and be Jagero. Yes. And you'll start missing meeting people like me, ZP or somebody.
and saying people of the internet.
People of the internet.
There is a new program that I have called Political Headache. They shouted back at me, calling out people of the internet. You don't know. I had to explain myself properly before I went on using the word people of the internet. So thank you very much for listening in, and until another episode, bye for now.